Well, as Jeanette said, we started planting trees some time ago. She wanted to start a lot earlier, I suppose. The first lot we planted, just as you drive, before you drive through that gate, you'd see a few trees on the right-hand side. Some poplar box there. We planted them, I can't remember exactly, but it's at least over 12 years ago. And then they had all the years of drought, so they should be bigger, but they were the first lot we planted. And then we started on this campaign back in about the end of 22. We planted some over the other side of the hill and had a bit of a disaster with that. Then we planted more on the southern side where there's a big mixture of pepperinas, gum trees, just about anything we've got our hands on. And then, as Jeanette said, Tony came up with this program, so we got involved with that. And this particular lot here, as Jeanette said, that was only planted on the 7th of October last year. And I really don't know why they're growing so well. We're happy there. There's absolutely power out of the ground. And it's a slightly different soil. It's a bit lighter, they've had rain, but whatever it is, they've done well. You can look down there and you can see one tree and there's a fence line down there and there's another row of trees we planted down there on the 5th of August. There's about 80 or 90 in that lot. They haven't grown as well as this lot. And then as you came through the gate, there's a big lot of about 380 trees runs down that fence and then along our boundary fence, and that was planted back in 29th of April last year. And none of them have grown as well as this lot. So I really can't explain that, except once you get right down the bottom, of course, it's very heavy black soil, and trees don't really like heavy black soil, they like light. But we've tried a few different methods, but what we've come down to doing is we go along, we run a ripper along, break the soil up. We've found it works for us anyway. Go up and down a few times, maybe come back a bit later and break it all up a bit more so that you've got loose soil. And then when you're planting a big lot of trees, I used to always like to wet the hole first, but I find when you're planting a big lot of trees, it makes it too muddy, and that's what we've found. So we go along, dig a little hole, a little bit of blood and bone in the bottom. We've made up a mixture of a light soil mix that we've got from the other side of the mountain here where there was an old coal mine. Mix that in with a bit of sawdust so that goes around the tree. Landcare also provided a small slow release fertiliser tablet which goes in the bottom of the hole as well. And then the weed mat on top, and then your core flute, tree guard, and then of course water. And that's how we've been doing it. And we got the idea of the blood and bone in the bottom because Jeanette got hold of a guy out the other side of Toowoomba, and he had a nursery he runs out there. And he came up, one of his suggestions was, he said, always put blood and bone underneath the tree and it'll grow better. And we thought, oh, well, we'll try that. And it's interesting that we were down in New South Wales and at Gunnedah actually talking to a tree guy there. And just out of the blue, he said the same thing. He said, always put a bit of blood and bone underneath the tree and it'll grow better. Now, whether that's helped or not, I don't know, but they're certainly growing all right. So we do have a slow release fertiliser pellets as well. Watering, well, there's no great pattern you can do for watering. It's like something wants to be watered when it needs it. When we first established, put them in, we watered, and then depending on the weather, a few weeks later we might have watered again, but we have been lucky this whole summer that we haven't had to water. I think we only watered this lot about 3 times, and then they've had rain all the way through. I don't know what else I can add except answer any questions.
Would you blood and bone? Is that like a handful of blood and bone? Or?
Just not a very small handful. I think we had a little scoop. You just sort of drop a bit, kick a bit of dirt over it, put the tree in, and drop one of those tablets in as well. Kick it, and then pack our soil mixture around it, break a bit more dirt in. We always try and have it in a depression, definitely not sitting up, so that the water can lie there. And then the weed mats, well, they're only something Landcare's come up with early in the piece. We didn't have that. What I have noticed is I think we're probably lucky to get about 12 months out of a weed mat, I reckon. I reckon it'll probably rot down by then. The core flutes, when we first started, we just went to Bunnings and bought the plastic tube, and you can get the little bamboo stakes. We found they were pretty hopeless.
Yep.
The wind would blow them off.
Yep.
They're all down the paddock.
We picked them up for 10 years.
Yeah, bloody hopeless. And then we'd track these guys down, and then Tony bought quite a few of them. And I reckon that they'll probably last about 2 years. We've got some around the other side there that did start to disintegrate. By then your trees should be established anyway.
Your planting depth? Do you plant them? Because there's a bit of theory around doing the deep planting, like you plant them sort of soil level, and then there's this sort of theory that if you plant them a bit deeper, so you're actually planting part of the tree, that you're going to get a better root base. Have you looked into that?
We go along with the river, so that you're starting off down about that far below surface level anyway. We've dug it out, and we always make sure that the tree is down in there mainly so that you hold a lot of water.
Yes.
And then you make a little dam beside it as well as a few clods, because it's all slopey country here. If you've got flat country, well, it's different. You can see how it slopes, so the water's going to run when it rains, so you try and make a little bit of dam on the bottom to hold it in. But I would be saying a little bit deeper rather than too shallow.
Do you rip lines available on the contour, or you just parallel bits?
Well, I've done it along the contour here because we're going that way. You're quite welcome to walk back and have a look, or drive back and have a look at the trees down there, or you can walk down here and see them. Now they're going straight down. That's not on the contour, no. The main purpose, I feel, is breaking up the soil and letting the moisture in. I have had some people say, the roots will just follow that, and I don't think that's correct. I think they'll go anywhere. But the main thing is to let the soil, the water in. Otherwise, if you wanted to plant this number of trees, you go along and dig each hole, you wouldn't do it. And we've had a lot of help with this. The lot down there, the big lot down there, Jeanette got on, where did you get hold of them, did?
Put an ad up.
Jeanette put an ad up, and all these corporates have to do get their green tick and do certain things. So they turned up here with 25 people. And we had 400 trees to plant. We thought, this will take all day. They had it bloody done in about 4 hours. It was unreal. Which was great. This lot down here, once again, Jeanette had put an ad up, and we got some grey nomads that were travelling. They turned up here and gave us a hand to plant them. And then this lot here, another lot turned up and gave us a hand to plant them. And then we've got William we've had to do the fencing, of course, because you've got to keep the cattle out.
Had some problems with pests.
Yeah.
We planted 100 trees last year. We've had enormous problems with caterpillars and scale and just about everything.
What's the white fluffy?
Oh, as I say, one of the first lots we planted was facing down towards Oakley. You can't see Kingsthorpe Road. We planted that in autumn of 22, and that's when we used these tiny little plastic things, and which were hopeless. It was just before winter. We had a particularly cold period where we got blackfish also, and then the wallabies got in. That was our biggest disaster. Every now and then you'll see somewhere, obviously caterpillars are chewing the leaves off, but I never seen it. Have you had that problem?
We've had plants killed by caterpillars.
Caterpillars.
This is big yellow hard scale. It's really good.
Scale.
And the ants propagate it.
You know what that'd be, Lisa?
Scale.
It's just a scale. Is there anything you can do about it?
The best thing is it's like a systemic insecticide.
Insecticide.
Yeah, I've been using white oil, and I also got really desperate with some of them because they were dying, quite large ones, and I just put, that glue,
Yes. There's
which
also
is
a
probably a
tablet.
bit naughty for the other insects, but
There's a
they-
tablet. Just going to say there's a tablet you can get. It's called an initiator tablet. And it just lasts for a long time. You just put it in when you plant. And it's just a systemic. And it lasts. Depends how much rain you get, but the more rain you get, the quicker it goes.
Leave it down.
About 4 months or 5 months. You'll get it.
Greg, I found Yates make a thing called scale gum.
All right.
Now all it is white oil and pyrethrin. And they've actually got the formula on the bottle. Very dear. But you can actually buy the product
White oil
raw
and-
and make your own scale gums.
Okay.
And you've actually got to get rid of the ants, because it's the ants and the scale, we're now still talking about scale, that cohabit. Get rid of you can get rid of the scale, but the ants are still there and they'll propagate more scale.
How's the predator?
You've actually got to discourage the ants and the scale, or kill the scale, which the white oil does, and the pyrethrin gets rid of the ants. Now sure, it gets rid of all the other bugs, and the good bugs and the bad bugs. But of course, I've only got a small yard.
When you're doing this, it's a different
It's a
story.
different story. But that might give you a clue.
Might be something you can think of.
I think
Have you tried that?
But yours looks much more healthy than ours. We're about the same age. We've just been battling.
Sorry?
Because I subscribe to Peter, what the hell's Peter's name? Because all that runoff from there is feeding these trees.
You could possibly quite right, because the others there, it's running straight down.
That's right, you're only getting the...
You're just getting it as it goes past.
It's all-
This way it goes into the rip and then it goes down. Yeah. So if you can work it to go around the contour, well, that's ideal, but it depends where you want to plant. How deep? Oh, deep as I can go. When you're going back past all the flags, you'll see an old drag river there beside the shed. Big old steel wheels. Well, we sort of drag it behind the dozer, and it goes in as deep as I can go. And then I usually go up and back with that, and then I've got a load of Trevor Nelson 3.8 loaded. We try and do it and let it dry out a bit so you break the clods up and you've got loose soil. Because if it's too, and I think the first time I ripped this, it was just like putting a hot knife through butter. It was that bloody wet. But then you've got to get it to dry out and get it to break up.
Makes it easy planting too.
Oh, just so much easier planting. Because I think, if you're doing a few, you can use a post hole digger, but then you've got to break the side of your holes out. Otherwise, you've got a sealed hole and the roots won't go out.
What type of spacing are you?
What spacing? I think they're about 5 metres. 4 metres. 4 metres. 4 or 5 metres. We used to just spread them out, and then the rows are about 4 metres. So you can drive up. You can run a slasher up. Anything to make it easy.
And you've got rows of three. Someone was saying you had to have three. I think Glennis was saying you had to have 3 trees in a row like that for the bears to, well, koalas, sorry.
Well,
3 to 3.
we didn't work on that principle. There's 2 rows down there because it's a big drain and we put some down each side. Over there we've got 4 going down the hill and then we've got 3 going that way. And down the front I think there might be 4 rows down there. We didn't really work out, and I think here we thought, oh well, 3 will do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seems like you've got an average of 3 anyway.
I think it's about that, yeah. And then where we planted around the back, I think there's probably 6 rows around there. So I tell
Did they
Jeanette, well,
zigzag a bit?
yeah, a little bit. Not specifically, no.
So how many more are you looking at doing?
We've retired. Gone on strike.
How many is that?
Might have been close to 1,000, I suppose. I don't know. Yeah, about that. Yeah. So yeah, it's been a lot of work, but someone else will probably get the benefit down the track. Yeah, well, hopefully, yeah. I don't know if I can. Any more questions? We asked the expert.
Come to Crow's Nest Nursery, we've got a sheet. Koala trees for this region.
That's the way to go. We got a lot of them out at Crow's Nest to start with.
Does it differ much, you know, like from the escarpment to over here where it's flatter and the trees are smaller?
Sometimes it depends on the soil,
Yeah.
but also for koalas, the trees they like here might not be and probably aren't the same as the ones down in South Australia. So, yeah, so
Yeah, it does.
it does differ.
What is the koala population?
Here we got virtually none of them.
Okay.
We occasionally see 1 or 2, but we haven't seen one for some time. They're sort of down in the valley down there. Chris has been going to do a drone fly over here to tell us what we got, but he hasn't got it yet.
Oh, it'll be winter. It's not cold enough yet.
As you get up to the top, we found there's probably half a dozen Findersia koala. There's 2 types of gums. I've got the list written for Jeanette and Greg, I just haven't.
Haven't seen it.
So there's quite a few, it's quite diverse up there.
Yeah.
How do you go about your watering?
We use those shuttles, and mostly we use a truck with about 4 tanks on it, and just a hose running off. And then we have also just used one in the back of the old Triton, and you just go along and just gravity feed.
Things that you've got around the property, are any of them connected so that the koalas could sort of travel from one clump to another?
Well, I mean, to me, koalas seem to travel overland quite a bit. I mean, ideally, if they can grow from one group to another, well, that was one of the reasons we planted the one down that fence and down Barry's, a neighbour's fence, so that, because they're always down there, I know he often has them around his house, so they've got something to come to, and then they can then link up coming up the hill. But I guess we were conscious of where we planted them, where to affect other things. I mean, there's a fence that side, so you're really just extending the fence. Down that corner was the same. Down there, we're just using one fence and putting another fence up. The one down near the Oakey-Cutella Road is out standing alone. You'll see it as you drive past. And it was planted as much for shade as anything, because there's not much shade in that paddock. And once they grow up, the cattle will have a good shade clump.
That's it. Feel free to drive. I think the gate's open down here. We didn't set it up, so you can drive a bit rough that way.
You can wander down or drive that way, or drive that way.
That way, or you've got to
Climb through the fence, and most welcome to have a look at it.
along here, down there, and up as far as our neighbour Barry Pansrane's dam. is this tax.
Have you turned the fence off?
Yes.
Is it turned off from the other one?
Yeah.
We were sending you over first to check it.
Ashley tested it.
It's off.
And he was satisfied. Is the other one turned
Yeah, no, it's
Sprinkle.
So we've just got in before the rain. I think we might get 1 mil this afternoon.
yeah.
Right, no more questions then? Greg? I'd just like to let everybody show their appreciation for his expertise and knowledge.
Thanks for coming along, guys. And I mean, if anyone ever wants to come back and have another look or a yarn, we're quite happy to do that.